What's up Sega fans, Dan the Mega Driver here of the Sega Guys with an update on a Sega classic. Streets of Rage launched on the Sega Mega Drive and Sega Genesis in 1991 and, alongside Sonic the Hedgehog, was one of the games that helped Sega propel the console ahead of their rivals Nintendo at the time. The game was a scrolling beat 'em up along the lines of arcade classic Final Fight, where you scroll from left to right, beating the stuffing out of assorted gang members. What set Streets of Rage apart was its great setting, its superb gameplay, its two-player co-op, which the SNES port of Final Fight lacked, and the incredible music by Yuzo Koshiro. This week, I've been playing a fan update for that iconic game, with a patch that updates the game to what has been titled Streets of Rage Plus. The origins of this one lie with prolific Mega Drive modder BillyTime Games and are essentially a number of his previous Streets of Rage hacks combined into one nice little package. The first you'll notice is that there are additional colours, or at least they will be if you choose any character using a button other than A. BillyTime has shared the button combinations that result in each of these palette swaps. They are pretty cool, letting you swap the colour of your characters in this iconic title. There is a catch though. Because of how the characters share colour palettes with the rest of the game, the swaps can cause strange visual issues like green fire and brown glass telephone boxes. Still, it's a fun and interesting addition that spices the game up a bit. Note that it is for solo players only, as you can imagine using the colours across two characters would probably cause a number of conflicts across the colours in the game. The controls also get an upgrade with support for the Sega 6-button controller. Button Z now acts as your back attack, saving you from having to mash buttons B and C together. Meanwhile, the Y button introduces a sprint option. Now the sprint doesn't work like Streets of Rage 3 where you have additional animations, so it basically amounts to a fast walk, but it's still very useful and it actually changes the pace of the game. But that's not all. Pressing Y after being thrown will allow players to land safely. Again, it's another cool little addition allowing you to recover whenever the signal enemies, for example, chuck you across the screen. Arguably, the biggest change, however, is the change in how you access Streets of Rage's bad ending. In the original game, you needed two players to fight their way to the final boss, and when Mr. X asked if you join him, one of you would have to say yes, and the other would have to say no. You then fight each other, with the winning player actually fighting the boss and then getting the bad ending. In this patch, if you say you will join Mr. X, you get sent all the way back to stage 6, just like the original game, but once you fight your way back up those 3 levels again and beat the brakes off of Mr. X, you are then treated to the bad ending, unlike the original game which just resorted to the good ending. It's a great addition that makes the question meaningful in single player and the effort of replaying stages 6, 7 and 8 worthwhile. The last addition in this patch is the random difficulty. Now this is a very clever little feature, accessed by pressing the mode button on the 6-button controller during the game's intro. This randomises enemy aggression and health, making encounters somewhat fresh and exciting. Now putting this all together, this all makes it sound like the ultimate version of Streets of Rage, and arguably it is. But that said, there are a few little quirks that I noticed during my playthroughs. Even without the difficulty randomizer, I did find that some enemies felt strangely more aggressive on the default difficulty. That may just be me, but playing this and the original game back to back, I did think that the enemy patterns were slightly different. What isn't up for debate though, is that enemy throws are broken. Every time I got thrown, my health would stay the same, regardless of whether I used the safe landing or not. This made things like the boss battle with Mona and Lisa, who feel a lot more difficult to hit in this game, a little bit easier, as their throws did absolutely no damage. As mentioned previously, the palette swaps can also be distracting. Playing with green trousers on Axel is cool, but not so much when it turns all the windows green as well. These are all, to be honest, very minor blemishes on what is a very impressive set of mods. The game is still perfectly enjoyable with those minor issues, and the additional way to unlock the bad ending offsets the changes or issues with regards to colours, enemy damage and behaviour. It's fair to say that without the broken throw damage actually, I may not have completed this run the first time round. In the end, this is definitely a mod I'd very much encourage all Streets of Rage fans to try out. There's a lot of superb stuff here. Even if it isn't quite the ultimate version of this 16-bit Sega classic, it is at very least an exciting alternative way to enjoy it. Anyway, that's all for today. If you've enjoyed this video and want to help the channel, please leave a like and a subscribe and hit that bell for notifications to stay on top of all future Sega Guys content, including Sega news, retrospectives, gameplay videos and our fortnightly podcast. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on the Sega side.